So in order to understand what you're going to read in the next section of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, you need to understand the conventions of courtly love, or what Gawain ends up doing when he's in the sticky situation he winds up in is not going to make any sense at all. So courtly love is a set of poetic conventions which arose in French troubadour songs in the 12th to 14th centuries that govern the attitude of the lover towards the beloved. So there are two things to notice about this. One, they're poetic conventions. They exist in poetry, and then there are a set of rules that should be followed. And what these rules are about is how a lover is supposed to act towards his beloved. Now, what are those rules? Well, the first one is that the lover should have a worshipful attitude toward his beloved. Generally not literal worship, because these are in a Christian context, but something very akin to worship. And one of the ways he does this is by creating a great distance between himself and his beloved. He's unworthy to be near her. So you'll often see courtly love poetry talking about the great distance between them, how much higher she is than him, and oftentimes there is some sort of obstacle in the way in between the two. For example, in courtly love poetry, the woman will be either literally far away, so it'll be a literal distance. She'll be very cold and unresponsive, so there'll be an emotional distance, or she'll be married. So there's an unattainability there. There's a distance that he can't get through. Another convention is absolute obedience. The lover must promise absolute obedience to his beloved, to his lady. This means that he can't say no, and this convention in particular is going to cause Gawain some trouble. So pay attention to how he gets around this problem in when he's talking to the lady of the castle, where he winds up. And finally, the devotion to the beloved was supposed to be morally elevating. The beloved was supposed to be idealized, better than he is, and then by loving her, he is lifted up into a plane where he isn't before. So you may recognize this somewhat as the notion of putting a woman up on a pedestal. This distance is the original pedestal, that she needed to be far away and above you, and you would swear to be absolutely obedient to everything she wished, because she was, of course, better than you. Now, you might wonder who in their right mind would behave this way to a real flesh and blood woman whom he loved. And the answer is nobody. Okay? This isn't a set of conventions that applied to actual human behavior. Nobody was expected to actually behave like this in their real life. The goal in these songs and in these poems is for the lover, and actually the poet who's inhabiting the character of the lover in this song or in this poem, is to demonstrate the mastery of these conventions and their skill in deploying them. So rather than being about the beloved, it's often about the poet who's behind the lover, showing off his skills at being able to accomplish all of these things. And I want you to pay attention what the people in the castle expect of Gawain when he shows up. They're expecting a particularly spectacular display, not of his feats of arms or of his moral virtue, but of his courtesy, of his ability to use words in an appropriate and pleasing way. And this is what they're looking for. So this is what I wanted you to understand. These are the rules that Gawain has to follow. They're the rules of the game that he has to play with the lady of the castle, and it'll help you understand why he behaves the way he does, and why the lady behaves the way she does in their encounters.